Hi, this presentation is for advisors that are working test-only events at State Leadership Conference this year, 2016. These events will be either Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m., with the competition starting about 30 minutes after the orientation. You'll need to see your schedule for your event time and room number. Be prepared to run your event. But since this is a test-only event, you will not need judges. You will use Scantrons that will be scored in tabulations. In order to prepare for State Leadership Conference, make sure you review your guidelines. I would go over them a couple of different times. The students will have a few questions, I'm sure. If you are the event manager, you will just coordinate the event. How are we going to do the different things we need to do? And the event personnel assist with the event. The event manager will attend the orientation. That's the only person that needs to attend the orientation for your event. The event personnel will go straight on to the event room, and you'll make sure your room is set up okay. And it should be set up in what's called a schoolroom set. And that's the picture you see on your screen now. It's just tables and chairs, and you should have 3 to 4 chairs per table. If there is room for a head table for the advisors, there'll be one. Otherwise, there'll just be about 3 chairs in the room for advisors. In order to help you get coordinated and to help get them in the rooms, there'll be a table and a couple of chairs outside the room as well for the advisors. The things you need to decide what you're going to do. You need to decide who is going to read the test instructions, who's going to score and keep time, who's going to do dress code and guidelines, that type thing, and that can be organized. We'll go over that later. You do need to know that each person will be expected to fill out a confidentiality form stating that you understand, in order to keep our state leadership conferences fair for all future years, that all the people working the events are supposed to keep everything they know about the event confidential. You're not supposed to look at the test, take pictures of the test, make copies of the test, anything like that. If a student has a question about something on the test, obviously you can look at that, but there's very little we can do to help them on a testing event. Your best response is go back to your seat, read the question very thoroughly, and choose what you feel like is the best answer for that question. This is an example of the confidentiality form that everybody that works the event will be asked to sign. And the event manager is responsible for making sure that everybody signs that and they're returned to headquarters. When you go to orientation, this is for the event managers. When you come to orientation, you'll receive your event packet and any additional instructions that have come up since this recording. You'll get your competitor list, your test, and we'll count them to make sure that you have the right amount, your Scantron sheets, and we are very blessed. National HOSA is going to pre-print them this year for us with the student's name and school and everything already on them. You'll also have some blanks in case there are some substitutions or some students that show up that we were unaware of. You'll get your confidentiality forms and your event survey forms. We would like for every advisor to complete the survey form, and just keep in mind this survey is about this event only. We want to know what we can do to improve or to keep quality in the event you are running. There'll be another survey later for the entirety of the State Leadership Conference. If for any reason the event manager cannot attend orientation, please let me know as soon as you possibly can, because somebody from that event needs to be in orientation. This is when you pick up your test and your rosters and that kind of thing, and it is imperative that somebody's there. Again, I ask you to please be familiar with the event guidelines and follow them as precisely as we can. You will do an orientation in your room for the students, and Prior to that, you need to have decided how you're going to get the students in the room and that type thing. My suggestion is, as you're getting the students in the room, you can disperse the Scantron sheets then, and you can do it from the table that's right outside the door. But you do have to have a way that you get the Scantron sheets to the kids, that you check guidelines and dress codes, that you get the test handed out in a timely manner, that you read the instructions, time the test, and then have a way to collect everything back up. My suggestion for that is absolutely use that table outside the door. Have the Scantrons in alphabetical order at the table, and then have a second event person there with the roster. On the roster is where you document the guidelines and the dress code. As the student comes up to your table, find their Scantron sheet, mark them off on the roster, and very discreetly check their dress code. You can also have them show you their guidelines at that time, and then they can go on in the room and find themselves somewhere to sit. If you have a question about a dress code or you think it's iffy, I would very discreetly have another event personnel look at that student, and y'all come together and make the decision on whether or not the student meets dress code. If it is really, really close and you're just not sure, give it to the student. Let them err on the side of the student and let them have the points. The only thing you're going to document are students that do not meet dress code or do not have their guidelines. Otherwise, you don't document anything on the sheet. You can have one set of guidelines per team, but if it's an individual event, every person has to have their own. Students cannot share guidelines. After you've checked the students in and they're all seated, you need to instruct them about their cell phones. Have them turn their cell phones off and place it face down on the table in front of them. At this point, if a cell phone rings, vibrates, does anything to cause any kind of distractions, you will also document that on the sheet, because the student can lose points for cell phone violations. I would hand out the test face down and instruct the students not to view them until they're told to do so. Then read the directions page to the competitors, answer any questions they have, begin the timer, and begin the test. As the students finish, they can bring the test and Scantron sheet up to you, or they can raise their hand. You can come collect the Scantron sheet and the test, and then they're free to leave. Team Scantron should be paper clipped together before you bring them to headquarters. Just some additional information. If your tables have tablecloths, you will need to instruct the students that they need to complete and bubble in their Scantron sheets on top of their test. If they do it on top of the tablecloth, there's a very good chance their pencil will puncture through and it won't read correctly going through the Scantron. If there is a test that has a writing portion or a case study or something like that, then the student will write on the test itself for those answers. Just make sure that they have included their name and their school on their actual test packet before they turn it back in. Remind them that the top 6 competitors will be posted to the Alabama HOSA website. We are hoping for a link from the actual home page. Medical math this year. It is a test-only event, but it is a little bit different than the others. In the past, we have had the students write their answers on the test, and we have hand-scored them. This year, National HOSA is coming, and they're helping us with this, and they are providing the Scantron sheets that the students can bubble in their answers for medical math. So they do need to understand that they're bubbling in the Scantron sheet. The Scantron sheet does have a way for them to document decimals or fractions. It does not matter if they start from the left side or they work it out where it's right justified. The machine will still read it. We will supply them with a basic calculator and with 2 pieces of blank paper, and that's the only thing they can have in there and the only additional thing they can use. Possible problems that you might come up on. If a student arrives late, we are not going to turn the student away. We are going to allow them to test. Just step outside the room with them, orient them to what needs to be done, provide them with their test and their Scantron, and then let them come in and be seated and test. They will only have the amount of time left in the competition. They do not get the full amount of time. They only get the amount of time that's left. If you have a student that is present that's not on your roster, make sure that student's in the right place and that they showed up for the right event. If they tell you, yes, this is my event, and they're not on the roster, err on the side of the student, give them a blank Scantron sheet, let them take the test, write their name in on the roster, and when it gets back to headquarters, we will double check registration and see if they were registered for that event or not. Just keep in mind that our goal is to set an example of high standards and integrity for our students. They should see us being good sportsmen. They should see us being honest and fair and demonstrating integrity every way they look. Our main goal is to be consistent across the board. If there is a test question that you feel like it's wrong, it's okay. It's wrong for everybody. It's consistent across the board. And because I can't say there will not be a possible error somewhere when National HOSA is doing thousands of test questions. You be the example that shows these kids how to behave and how to conduct themselves. And you conduct your event how you are hoping that other advisors are conducting the events for your students. You know how hard your students have worked to get here. If a student has a grievance and they bring it to you, if it's something you can fix it. That's fine. You know, if their chair is wobbling and they don't feel like they can concentrate, change the chair out. That's fine. If you're unsure of how it can be fixed or if it even needs to be fixed, refer the student to their advisor. Their advisor has the ability to bring the grievance to headquarters after the competition. But we should always keep that confidential. Everybody's doing their best, and we just need to keep in mind that we are all human. We are doing our best, but we're human. When the event's over, make sure you've collected up all the tests and the Scantrons, recount your test, paperclip team events together, make sure y'all complete your event survey. And in the event binder, there's an instruction sheet that tells you, what you need to include and what you need to put in that front pocket. And I'll show you a picture of that in just a minute. Excuse me. Event managers will return the binder and any other supplies to headquarters, and you'll sign your packet back in. Your check-in sheet looks like this. Make sure that the top part of the sheet is filled in because we are taking these out and separating them up for me to deal with later. Excuse me. When you start looking down at the collect and return to headquarters column, the only one that will have equipment and supplies is medical math. And because you're test only, you won't have any event signs. You won't have to worry about that part. But please fill out the bottom. Thank you so much. We could not do it without you.